Hello, ladies. Welcome to our holiday recipe edition. Again, welcome to my kitchen. I am here live and I am going to be doing a holiday traditional recipe with you tonight. And if you are catching me live, let me know you're here. I would love to know. Hey, Jen. So, Christmas is a couple days away, and some of you are celebrating Hanukkah. I hope you're all enjoying your time with your family and your dinners. Hey, Karen. So we are going to be doing a Christmas Eve dinner here at my house. I always do Christmas Eve dinner. And then I also do a Christmas brunch the next morning. So basically everybody comes over for Christmas Eve dinner, and I usually do the recipe I'm doing tonight. And then on Christmas morning, I do a brunch where I do like my baked oatmeal, which I've shared that recipe with you in the past, and my special parfait recipe, which I've shared that recipe with you in the past. So tonight's recipe is something I haven't tried with you, and it is my lasagna recipe. And I know it might sound like, oh, lasagna, that's basic. We know how to make lasagna. Yes, you probably all know how to make a lasagna. But I wanted to give this recipe to you because there's a special ingredient in it that makes it extra yummy and extra nutritious, so to speak. And I don't know if any of you ever feel this way, and comment below. Do you have a hard time eating Italian foods that have ricotta in it? I don't know if some people say ricotta, some people say ricotta, whatever the cheese, however you say it. Do any of you have a hard time with that? So I have found that cheese always bothers my stomach. And so I found the recipe on replacing that with something different, and it's so good, and nobody knows there's anything different in the recipe. So don't tell anybody in my house, because typically speaking, not that they actually know how to make lasagna, but I'm always scared that they're going to find out that an ingredient is swapped, or even one of the adults, and then nobody is going to want to eat it, right? So I'm going to show you how I do this, and it's so good. Hey, Karen. So what the first thing you're going to do is basic lasagna. I usually do boil my noodles beforehand and use boiled noodles. I am going to use those no-bake boiled noodles tonight to make this faster. Because I've done it before and it works just fine. I just prefer the boiling of the noodles just because I want to guarantee that it's, they're soft. But if you add extra sauce to the pan with no boil noodles, it turns out just fine. Okay, so step number one is you're going to get ground beef or whatever kind of ground meat you want to use. I only like to use ground beef. Some people do a mixture of beef and sausage or beef and pork. Whatever you like to do that. And what I have back here is, let me bring my pan. I already cooked it. So just about 2.5 pounds of ground beef, okay? I saute that in the pan first, okay? So all this has been sauteed in the pan, and then I kind of just strained off about half of the fat after I sauteed the ground beef in the pan. After I sauteed the ground beef, I added 3 cloves of fresh garlic. I like using the fresh garlic for this because it really makes a difference in the seasoning of the beef. And I saute that a little longer to kind of get it cooked down a little bit. And then I add a jar of this sauce. Now you can make your own sauce, but who's got time for that, right? I really like this brand. It's called Victoria. I know another great brand that a lot of people like to use is the Rouse. However, I prefer this brand over Rouse because this one doesn't have as much acidity to it, in my opinion. And the Rouse, it seems to bother my stomach a little bit, and I notice it with my daughter. So I don't notice it with this, so I love this one, and I think it's equal. It's equal level of quality when it comes to. There's no added sugar to it, which is one of the things I always look for in a tomato sauce. It's the closest thing you're going to get to like a homemade sauce, in my opinion, those two brands. So I actually put a large jar. I buy the jars from Costco, the larger ones. Put a large jar of sauce in there, let it cook a little bit longer, and then I added a tablespoon and a half of dried parsley to the mixture. Okay, so a tablespoon and a half dried parsley. I'll write this out too. And then I did a little bit of olive oil, and that's it with salt and pepper. That's all I did to the ground beef and let it cook. I added about 2 tablespoons also of tomato paste. You can omit that if you want to, but I had that squeezy tube in the fridge, so I just put that in there to kind of give it some more richness. Hey, Donna. So all that was cooking and simmering, and let that be. Now, the secret ingredient part, and then I'll show you just the assembly of the lasagna. So, I'm using a basic pan for the lasagna, and I always start with having a little bit of sauce in the bottom of the lasagna so that the noodles in the bottom get fully moisturized. So here's what I do to make it less irritating to my stomach and everybody else's stomach, in my opinion, and it increases the protein count by a lot. So usually a recipe for lasagna calls for about 16 ounces, 8 to 16 ounces of ricotta cheese. So I omit that. I'm gonna get a spoon, and what I use is, let me show you, in my bowl here. I already have it in my bowl. Okay, it looks like regatta, right? I tried really quickly to get this mixed up so nobody can detect me. I actually use whipped cottage cheese. I promise you, nobody will know the difference. I promise you, it's so good. And if you don't know this, cottage cheese has 16 grams of protein to it for half a cup. And I use the whipped kind because it's less detectable and it's just lighter and it looks more like regatta, so it's all about the visual too. Nobody can tell what it's all mixed in, but when I started doing this from the beginning, I was like, I just need it to be as secretive as possible. Don't tell them. And then I'm adding 2 eggs to the mixture. I added a teaspoon of salt to the mixture and a bunch of fresh ground pepper into the cottage cheese mixture. And then I did some dried basil, about a teaspoon of dried basil, and I'm gonna do fresh herbs in here. Only because if you see behind me, you see my herb garden behind me, that thing back there, I have so much growing on there. I'm just trying to find ways to use it all. So instead of using all dried ingredients, I chopped up some fresh parsley. I'm just gonna put my fresh parsley in there, and I'm going to, and wow, fresh parsley smells so good. Also, I would love to know, hey Matthew, I would love to know, do any of you make anything special for Christmas Eve or Christmas morning? Is there any specific recipe that you make every year, no matter what? I do have like my classics. I do this every year. And I do a cheesecake for dessert, which I've shared with you in the past. And everybody always likes that cheesecake because it's also made with some secret ingredient. I actually am using my kitchen shears and taking, look at this basil. Look how big the leaves are from my indoor garden. Look at that. So I have all this beautiful basil. When you walk past this indoor garden, you can smell the basil. It smells so good. So I'm just chopping it up with my shears because it's faster for me, and it just, it's going to be mixed in and cooked down anyway, so it doesn't need to be like a perfect dice or slice. So I just took a bunch of basil off the tree behind me and just dicing it in there. If you're nearby and you need some basil, I have thyme, I have basil, I have rosemary, I have sage. Come on over. I'm happy to share any of the herbs that you might need for this weekend. I hate spending all that, they're like $5 a container, for fresh herbs. And you use like 2 or 3 sprigs of it and then it's gone. You don't even use it all. Okay, so I just mixed all of that into the mixture, and I did a full 16 ounces of this. And hi, Patricia. And then I did add extra about other 8 ounces of it because I just wanted to make sure there was enough of it for a larger lasagna. You certainly could half this recipe too and do like an 8 ounce, not 8 ounce, like an 8 by 8 square pan or whatever. That would also work really well. And I do have an extra jar of sauce nearby because I want to make sure there's enough moisture into the lasagna so that the noodles will cook. I'm just adding about a half a cup of Parmesan cheese to the mixture as well, to the secret ingredient mixture, I'm going to call it. Hey, Chanda. So if you're just hopping on live, I'm cooking my lasagna recipe. And what makes this recipe different is instead of using regatta cheese, because it hurts my stomach, it hurts a lot of people's stomach apparently. I can eat cheese and I can do a lot of cheese, but I just can't do that one. I substitute it with cottage cheese, whipped cottage cheese, and I promise you, nobody will know that you've swapped something out. It tastes so good. And cottage cheese has 16 grams of protein per half a cup, which is a lot of protein. So it really just increases the protein count for your leftovers, because there's nothing better than leftover lasagna, right? Have you ever had same day lasagna is good, but leftover lasagna is better? And I'm one of those people that I don't like leftovers. I don't eat leftover meat. So I will eat leftover pasta or leftover, like if meat's in a sauce, then I'll eat it, or like a soup, but I won't like reheat chicken or reheat meat or stuff. So I will eat this leftover. And nobody ever wastes lasagna, I feel like. And of course, if you have like allergies to anything else, you can certainly substitute all of the components to whatever you can make it with chicken. You can even make it with turkey. You could omit the meat, and you can make it with like spinach. My grandmother used to make a spinach lasagna every Christmas, and so she would do it that way. So it was more of a white lasagna because it didn't have the red sauce. It had more of the, sometimes she would do red sauce. I'm just adding some sauce to the bottom of my pan so that there's more moisture for the noodles. I am using no-bake noodles tonight, if you're just hopping on live, because I didn't have time to boil them for tonight. So I am using the no boil. I typically do boil my noodles just because I don't mind it and it doesn't take that long. But for tonight, I just wanted to make sure I had, the noodles ready to go and prepared. So what I did was I'm just layering the bottom of my pan, and I'm just measuring the noodles out. And I don't mind if it's not perfect, because again, it's lasagna. So I just kind of laid the base of my pan with noodles. I did put some sauce on the bottom, and then I'm just going to layer it. I'm just going to layer it with the cheese mixture first. And I added to the cheese mixture 2 eggs, salt, pepper, fresh basil, fresh parsley from my indoor herb garden. I did put some dry basil in there too, just because the recipe had called for it initially, and I figured I'll just do a combination of fresh and dried, and that's it. So it's super simple, and it's really good, and it's not hard to do, and all I'm doing is doing a layering effect. And when you cook the meat, it does absorb a lot of the sauce. So I'm seeing like the sauce mixture that I have in my pan here, it does seem to have had absorbed a lot of the moisture of the sauce. So I did open up a secondary jar of the Victoria. I like the Victoria brand if you're just catching me live. I know Rouse is really good too. I just don't like the Rouse as much because I feel like it's more acidic. But this is like the same quality level. So if you've never tried Victoria brand, they do sell it at Costco in the bigger jars. So I just added some more sauce just to make sure, there's a lot of moisture for these no-bake noodles. So when you guys make lasagna, do you use the no-bake noodles? Anybody? Or do you always boil them? I typically boil them, but I'm doing this tonight because I didn't have time to do the boiling beforehand. So I'm just layering it. You just keep layering it like this, and keep layering the sauce and the cheese mixture until you're finished. And I forgot to add the mozzarella cheese. So you're supposed to add mozzarella cheese in between each layer too. So I need to do that because I'm gonna mess it up. But so usually it's cheese, mozzarella cheese, then I do the meat mixture and then keep layering it. And at the top, I'll put a layer of some sauce and a layer of mozzarella cheese. I'll put foil over it, and it will bake in the oven at 350 for usually only about 30 minutes. But because I'm going to put this in the refrigerator and bake it on Christmas Eve, it'll probably need to cook for about an hour with the foil on, so that the no-bake noodles get soft enough and there's enough moisture. So the key to using the no-bake noodles is make sure you have extra sauce. You can't ever have too much sauce, right? You need extra sauce because the lasagna noodles will absorb it anyway. So that's the key, and just keep layering it and bake it. And that's my recipe for you tonight. I hope it was easy for you. I hope you're interested in trying the swap out. I promise you, the swap out for ricotta cheese and using the cottage cheese instead, it's so good, and you're not going to have stomach pain. And I don't really know why that happens. There's got to be something to do with the type of dairy that it is. But this is a really great swap out. And if you are always looking for ways to increase your kids' protein intake, obviously there's protein in the ground beef. And of course, you know, there's all that good stuff. And no matter, there's protein in any cheeses, but it's just nice knowing you get some extra protein in there. It makes it more satisfying too. And maybe you don't have to have as many additional side dishes to go along with it. So I'm going to serve this on Christmas Eve. Hi, Alana. With Caesar salad. I'm going to buy homemade Caesar dressing from a chef in my neighborhood who owns Sin and Grin restaurant. I want to support her. She makes the best Caesar salad dressing. So I'm going to be going to pick that up tomorrow. I'm going to have bread, garlic bread, and I'm going to have shrimp, and I'm going to make a cheesecake for dessert. That's my Christmas Eve dinner. What are all of you making? Are you cooking? Comment below. Would love to know what some of you are cooking. And then on Christmas brunch morning, I'm going to be making my baked oatmeal, which everybody loves. I made that recipe for you. I want to say I did it last year for you. And then I'm also going to be making my parfait recipe. And I can't remember if I ever shared. Does anybody remember? Have I shared my specialty parfait recipe? There's a key tricky ingredient in there too that makes it extra yummy. If I haven't shared it already, I will share it with you somehow. It's kind of hard because I usually only make it the day of the holiday, and you know, trying to coordinate that on a camera is kind of hard, but I can try. I can pre-record it. So I will try sharing that if I haven't already shared it. I have to look through my notes. And then I usually make, for Christmas Eve breakfast, I have like fresh fruit to go on top of the oatmeal and on top of the parfait, and I like to go to actually after this I'm going to go to Trader Joe's. I'm going to buy their frozen fruit, and what I do is I just put it in the fridge, let it defrost overnight, and it's a combination of like cherries, blueberries, strawberries. It's like those fruits, and use that as a topper for the parfait. It's really good because it has like the natural juices to it. So I do that. And then I buy the Trader Joe's croissants that you bake yourself, the chocolate-filled croissants. Oh my gosh, they're so good, you guys. If you like chocolate croissants, I just buy those and I make those and cut them in half for additional parts of the brunch. And then I usually make bacon and some sort of like egg dish because, you know, there's a lot of carbs going on there. So I'm trying to always balance it out with some protein for the little people. So that's my brunch menu, and that's my Christmas Eve menu. I hope the no-bake noodles work for you and Steve, Karen. But Merry Christmas to all of you. Happy Hanukkah, those of you who are celebrating this week. It's been a really great month seeing all of you come through my holiday sip and shop. If you haven't checked out my stories today, I did do a story on some last-minute stocking stuffer ideas. So I'd love, you know, if you need last minute help, I do still have things available. You can certainly pop over. I am getting a lot of you reaching out to me needing those things. So that's what made me decide to do the video, because I'm getting lots of requests for oil-free eye makeup remover and charcoal masks. So if you're in need of last minute stocking stuffers, you know where to find me. Otherwise, I will see you after Christmas for sure, and stay tuned because I'll be doing some more videos. And if I can get that video up there with my parfait before Christmas, I will. If not, I'll record it somehow and share it with you between now and the new year. How about that? So if you like these videos and you want more of them, let me know. Let me know. This is my little cooking show, my little side gig cooking show. I don't do it enough, but sometimes it's fun for me because it forces me to have a plan for whatever meal I have to be cooking. And it's fun. I enjoy cooking, but I'm one of those people that I find that dinner is sometimes the hardest part of my day, because I'm one of those people that's like, oh no, I have to feed them. And it's like, I know I have to feed them every day, but I'm not very good at like preparing in advance. So if I know I'm doing like something like this, I have to prepare in advance. So if you like these little things, let me know. Maybe I'll do more of them in the new year. I'm always open to suggestions, and if I can spill a little fun and joy in our lives, that makes me happy too. Well, have a great evening, ladies. I hope you're staying warm, and I hope that you are avoiding all this pouring down rain here. I know some of you are getting snow, but Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and Happy Hanukkah. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.